Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated and remain seated while Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Shivani Patel prepares the 2nd Battalion for our ceremony. Good afternoon. On behalf of the GMC Board of Trustees, members of the 144th Corps Cadets, faculty and staff at Georgia Military College, I would like to welcome you to our ceremony honoring the legacy of Reverend Martin Luther King, Jr. I am Cadet Captain Maggie Partman, and I will be your narrator for this event. Georgia Military College extends a special welcome to the guests and dignitaries who have joined Lieutenant General Caldwell on this historic day. We would like to recognize the members of our GMC Board of Trustees, Chairman George Hogan, the Mayor of Milledgeville, Miss Mary Parham Copeland, and members of the GMC Foundation. In addition, we would like to recognize Commissioner John Westmoreland and Commissioner Henry Craig. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, please stand, face the flag, and place your right hand over your heart as Cadet Captain Kenyon Shai leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Allow me to provide a brief history of Martin Luther King Day. It was officially observed as a national public holiday for the first time in 1986. Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta, Georgia. His father served as pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, a church that had been founded by Martin Luther King Jr.'s maternal grandfather. He attended local public schools in Atlanta where he excelled. He entered nearby Morehouse College at age 15 and graduated with a bachelor's degree in sociology in 1948. Martin Luther King Jr. was ordained as a Baptist minister at age 18. After graduating with honors from Crozer Theological Seminary in Pennsylvania in 1951, he attended Boston University and earned a doctoral degree in systematic theology in 1955. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is remembered as one of the principal leaders of the American Civil Rights Movement and as a prominent advocate of nonviolent protest. Dr. King's nonviolent challenges to segregation and racial discrimination in the 1950s and 60s helped convince many Americans to support the cause of civil rights in the United States. He was awarded a Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts. Even before he was assassinated in 1968, Dr. King was a worldwide symbol for the struggle towards universal racial equality and a symbol of hope for the oppressed. He was, in the fullest sense of the words, a good man, and we honor his memory today with this ceremony. Dr. King once said, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" The Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service is a part of the President's national call to service that calls for Americans from all walks of life to work together to provide solutions to our most pressing national problems. Today, we honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and all of the men and women who not only shared his ideals, but act upon them daily. To paraphrase Dr. King, every person must decide whether to walk in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of destructive selfishness. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the principal of GMC Prep School, Dr. Steve Greer.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's my great honor to welcome our guest speaker, Command Sergeant Ira Weaver. I'd also like to send a special welcome out to his lovely spouse, Major Retired Kelsey Weaver. And he also brought his family members all the way from Perry, Georgia, I heard, his aunt and uncle. So thank you very much for being here with us. You know, his bio is on the back of your program. If you never served in the Army, then that's just a bunch of words and letters and numbers. You have no idea what you're looking at. I know you don't. But what I see is a man who spent 27 years of his life serving this great nation. And I will tell you, 18 years in the 82nd Airborne Division, most of us don't want to jump on an airplane for 1 minute. He spent 18 years jumping out of airplanes on drop zones all across the globe. Truly a remarkable career. And I will tell you, he went from being a private communicator, a radio operator, if you will, to being the senior enlisted advisor to the commanding general of NORAD, the same people that track Santa Claus every year. I tell you, that is quite an impressive career, quite impressive. He's going to tell his story. He started here in Georgia, down in Ashburn, Georgia. He's going to tell that story to you. But I tell you, it has been my distinct pleasure and honor, truly, to get to know him today, to be able to be his escort officer. A true American. He is a paratrooper's paratrooper, and I don't say that lightly. Without further ado, Command Sergeant Major Ira Weaver, will you please take the stand? We want to hear what you have to tell us today. Thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless America.
We on? Hey, I didn't expect to be on front row. And that's what it looked like in here with all the cadets and then all the distinguished guests. I'm telling you, I'm on front row. And I'm going to try to do my best. So I want to say good evening to all. Good evening to all. Last night, I had the privilege of seeing the 82nd Airborne Division course for the first time since I left the 82nd in 2018. And I'm going to tell you, my blood is still boiling right now. First, I want to thank the cadet narrator, Cadet Parkman, right? For her great touch point on Dr. King. And to Command Sergeant Major Greer for the introduction of a small-town Georgia boy. Thanks to Lieutenant General Caldwell and the Board of Trustees for the invite to be the speaker for the motivated Corps cadets here at the Georgia Military College. He and his staff are doing an incredible job in making this college a household name across the state. To the Corps cadets, I know I'm not your normal, well-known, highly successful speaker you have had in the past, but I am worthy of the task and I accept the challenge. We're here today to honor a great man, the Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King, Jr. His I Had a Dream speech was an influential speech that he gave during the March on Washington for jobs, freedom, on August the 28th, 1963. In this speech, Dr. King called for civil and economical rights for all, along with the ending of racism in the United States. One of your last guest speakers was Mr. Al Jackson, who was the first African American to attend this school, which was the story of many firsts during the fight for equal rights. I did not grow up during this historical time, but I did, before King passing, but I did benefit from the strenuous Herculean efforts of the men and women of this era. Dr. King gave another speech, and I'm gonna tell that story about that speech and that little boy that's sitting in the middle of the screen. He gave this speech in 1967 to Stanford University. It was known as the Other America. The Other America describes the differences in the lives of people in the different social classes here in the United States. In this speech, he used the phrase, the two Americas, shedding the light on the poor from the farms to the cities. There are many ways to have opportunities in the one America. In this America, it is given and come easy to many because of the road that have been paved by others. In this America, millions of young people grow up in the sunlight of opportunity. And I talked to some of them today, them cadets I talked to today had my heart boiling too. Where in the other Americas, it is a constant struggle to seize opportunity. In this America, people live day to day and from paycheck to paycheck. There's no talk at the dinner table about what college you will attend, but only the work that need to be conducted the next day. In this other Americas that I was in, sisters and brothers wore the same clothes throughout the week to school, As Dr. King had a dream, most of these families have dreams of breaking the burden of poverty, breaking the mindset of inferiority, and seeking the way to the other Americas, that first one that I talked about. As the oldest of 6 kids of a father who had a 3rd grade education and a mother who had a 7th grade education, and who performed the duties as a housewife with odds and end jobs. My father, he worked as a farmhand his whole life. Now, my parents did an outstanding job raising us, but there was no talk of college at the dinner table. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that I am a product of the other Americas. Like many, I also had dreams. They was always overcome by the work that was needed to be conducted in the fields around the farm. My days after school were not spent playing with others, but working. There was no field trips I attended. There was no sports that I can dedicate myself to because of my obligations. I did not know that there was a college like Georgia Military College that I could apply to change my path to prosperity. So after graduation, I began to work on the farm full time until I was in my mid-20s. This was normal to follow in your father's footsteps, a mindset that had moved from generation to generation. So, with no progress and a better road ahead, my younger brother joined the Air Force in 1992. See, he had no dreams of being a farmer like I did. He only had the dreams of something different and not the status quo. So after 2 of my friends went to see an Army recruiter, I decided it was time for me to take a leap of faith. And I joined the largest team in the United States Army in 1994. When I went to the Military Entrance Processing Station, MEPS, for those that know, they asked me, when would you like to leave? I told them today. The representative looked at me and he said, you cannot leave today, you cannot leave tomorrow, but we will get you out in 2 weeks, and I left in 2 weeks. I reported to Fort Jackson. Once I got to Fort Jackson, South Carolina for basic training, the drill sergeants, I had just turned 25. The drill sergeants looked at me and placed me into a leadership position. I think it was because of my maturity level, but guess what? Leadership came easy because I had been placed into a leadership position or in charge of gathering operations since I was little on the farm. This would become the primary turning point in my life, right? I had moved on to advanced individual training. Once I got to advanced individual training at Fort Gordon, Georgia, 2 drill sergeants that had served time at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, saw something within me, and they pushed me toward the airborne community, as you can see in that picture right there. That's Drill Sergeant Johnson and Drill Sergeant Gascoon pushing me along. This would be, like I said, the primary turning point in my life, a mental challenge by breaking the mindset that had plagued me my whole life. See, people in the other Americas all have mental blockers that are hard to overcome. For example, after 20 years in the Army, I visited the farm that I had once worked much of my young life. The owner came up to me and gave me a hug and said these words to me: I knew you were a good one. Now, this person was around 83 years old, so I often wonder, why did she say that? Was it because I was an African American, or was it because it was a norm, an aspect of Southern Georgia? I guess some should not achieve more than the prior generation had. I constantly ask myself, why did she say that? And those 2 people are dear to my heart. I talk to them every month. Back to the airborne piece. I never had set a foot on an airplane before in my life. only just seen them as they flew over above while I was working in the field. So I said, Drill Sergeant, I would like to join the paratroopers. They sent me to this old building where a representative was waiting to add it to my contract. They tried to get me Ranger School, but at that time it did not happen. I would eventually go to Ranger School some 11 years later, where I turned 36 years old in the Darby phase, which is down at Fort Benning, Georgia. Once I graduated Airborne School in 1994, I reported to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and checked into the 82nd Airborne Division. The division had a nickname. It was All Americans, totally different from Ashburn, Georgia, where we only had white and black. Serving in the 82nd Airborne Division changed my life. I equate it to my time growing up in southern Georgia. I had moved from private to first sergeant within the division before leaving, and went back to the division as All-American 2-8 November, and that's the former All-American 6 sitting right there. The G6 Sergeant Major, spending a total of 18 years there. I like to say I was born and raised on Ardennes, but the truth of the matter is I would not be where I am today without my early experiences in my hometown. I served 27 years, 10 months, 19 days on active duty, and reached the rank of Command Sergeant Major. And I did it all to accomplish a dream, which was to break the generational mindset that Ashburn was good enough. Georgia, I had a dream of owning my own farm also. So in 2013, my wife and I purchased our first property, which now is Weaver Family Farms. I just want you to understand, no matter where you are from, cadets, no matter what obstacles you encounter, you are in control of your opportunities. Your dreams have to be bigger than yourself, which I had a lot of them, right? Your future, you are the future, no matter what your path is. All right, so as we look at these pictures, I sort of told a story as I taught. The first picture up in the top was me in basic training, leaving Ashburn, Georgia. And I'm gonna tell you, there are many people back in this time, back in my hometown at that time, that had never even left the county. So leaving Ashburn was a great accomplishment. I talked about the drill sergeants pushing me into airborne. I'm gonna tell you, once I got to the 82nd Airborne Division, I had never seen anything like it before in my life. The All-Americans. I have never experienced anything like it. And I can tell you, it set me on the path to prosperity, which jumps to that picture with my wife and my daughters. When I talked about the generational change, those two girls right there, those two little girls are now 22 years old and 27 years old. And they are both college grads. It was never taught at the dinner table about going to college, but my kids did. And there they are. I'm gonna jump over to that picture over on the far right. Some of you may know him if you're old enough, but that is Dr. Granville Coggs. He was a Tuskegee Airman. And as you look at his picture, the picture, he's holding a picture. That was on the Martin Luther King Observance Day in 2011 in Fort Bliss, Texas, with me standing next to him. He graduated Harvard, became a doctor, and he invented the probe that was necessary to detect breast cancer for doing breast cancer screening. But that was, and I put that picture on there because of what I was doing today, and it just happened to be the same day I took that picture back in 2011. Now, for my last piece to the cadets. A leader takes people where they want to go. A great leader takes people where they don't necessarily want to go, but ought to be. Remember, Dr. King's dream was that one day we would live in a nation where people would not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. I want to say thank you for your time. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, because that's what Sergeant Majors tell the people to do. Character above all. All the way, airborne, Rangers lead the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Shivani Patel, our Cadet Battalion Commander, and Cadet Command Sergeant Major Wyatt Barr, our Cadet Command Sergeant Major, along with President Caldwell and Chairman of the GMC Board of Trustees, Mr. George Hogan, will present the Georgia Military College colors to Command Sergeant Major Ira Weaver.
All right, Sergeant Major.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as Cadet Ava Kate Martin recites our cadet prayer.
Almighty God, General of all life's forces, Commander of nature, we praise thy holy name. Visit thy presence upon us and all former GMC cadets. Reinforce us in our quest for knowledge, integrity, and leadership. Instill in us humanitarianism and bless our enemy, whoever he might be. Extinguish from our daily lives greed and envy, and make us champions of right and ladies and gentlemen of honor. May we glorify thy name in victory and be courageous in defeat. Help us ever to think first of our comrades and secondly of ourselves, and always of thee. Guide our footsteps and cleanse our minds. May we be first in the service of our country and first in thy service. Lead us so more, Lord, that we might lead. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guest speaker, Command Sergeant Major Ira Weaver, will be available down front for a short time if anyone in the audience would like to come forward to meet him. This concludes today's ceremony. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.